Let me tell you a story. My name is Jackson from The Traveling Linguist, and by the time this video comes out, I will have graduated. But my degree isn't in linguistics, even though I love languages. It's in biology and global health. And the reason that it's in biology and global health is because of my experiences in high school. In high school, I was very studious, as I am now, but the subject that particularly stood out to me was biology. And this is because my teacher was really, really good, and she made biology really fun and cool and exciting, etc. So going into college, I knew that this was something that I had wanted to do. And for the first year, I was just doing my prerequisites. I thought it was cool. Great, green light it, let's go. But as I got into my sophomore and junior year, I entered this program called BioCore, which is a program for honor students, and it was very difficult. It was a very hard program, and it kind of sapped my love for biology. It became less of wow, this is cool, and more of let me just get my homework done, let me study for this test. It became less about the things I found interesting and more about just passing the class. I didn't really care too much for it because the pace was ludicrous. You know that scene in Spaceballs when they get up to ludicrous hyperspeed? That's what it felt like going through this program. But it was just too much for me, and I was not having a good time, and now I'm not super interested in all of the technical things about biology. So knowing this, I don't have any interest in getting any sort of formal education in linguistics or even learning any sort of language for that matter, just because I'm scared that it will sap my love for languages just as it did for biology. And I don't know if this is something that you guys feel as well, if you guys think this is something common, but from what I understand, interacting with other people is that this is something that happens quite frequently, because most people love learning, and most people love creating and imagining and writing and reading. Most people love that stuff, but when it becomes forced through schooling, that love dissipates. And I don't know exactly why this is the case, if it's just because people are forced to learn, or if it's more about the way that they learn and the way the school system is set up, the way that your achievements matter more than the work that you put in. And that's what I love about learning languages and not studying them, is I can put in however much work that I want. It doesn't matter how good I am at a language. That's up for me to decide and for me to be proud of and for me to choose how proficient I want to be at a language. I don't have to master it to perfection or even get a baseline if I don't want to. But with school, in schooling systems, you don't get to choose your boundary. That's decided for you. And the amount of effort that you put in isn't a consideration when you're given your grade. So that could be a very interesting viewpoint when analyzing as to why people don't like school or are scared of going to school, or why people are starting just to dislike learning new things. It's not so fun when so much pressure is put on you. Like, I think particularly in middle and high school, especially, is when parents put a lot of pressure on students and teachers put a lot of pressure on students to do well. And that creates sort of a toxic, and I don't like using the word toxic, but it is a toxic environment for learning. Is the learning becomes less about learning and more about knowing enough to pass the class. That becomes your goal rather than to learn things. Passing with a specific letter grade is more important than the actual learning. And I'm not putting fault on the parents and teachers and school systems and whatever, but it just seems like that is the reason as to why people are less keen on learning now than they used to be. Learning isn't as interesting because it's not about learning, it's about getting a grade. So with this in mind, it makes me very nervous if I were to get any formal education in linguistics, because what if I start to care about the grade more than the learning? The learning is the whole reason why I do linguistics. or learn languages. Well, not the whole reason, but it's a big part of the reason as to why I do it. If you strip that away, would I really love it? Probably not. I mean, it's not the only reason. Like, I think the main draw of learning languages is the fact that you get to connect so much more with people of different cultures. Like, could I connect with Brazilians as much if I didn't speak Portuguese? Not to the same depth. And this isn't something you learn in a classroom by studying linguistics. Like, knowing the why behind these things is significantly different than actually speaking their language. Linguistics in and of itself is more of a science rather than something that you can apply to everyday life. Granted, you can't apply learning languages to everyday life, but there are many, many situations where you might need to use it in everyday life, particularly if you travel, which is what I plan to do. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that linguistics as a major seems to be far less useful, practical, seems to be far less practical than other degrees, even when it comes to professional fields. Like with biology and global health, I feel like I can go anywhere, whether it be grad school, well, anywhere in grad school, or there are so many jobs that I feel like I could get with those combination of degrees. Whereas if I had a linguistics degree, I think it'd be the scope of where I could go would be much narrower than if I had a general biology degree or a global health degree. And also I think that biology and global health aligns with my goals significantly more than a linguistics degree, because linguistics seems to be just scratching the surface of connecting with people. But if you can improve their lives, specifically through global health, like I feel like being more active in the community rather than studying languages would be a far better way to connect with people. I think that's what it's all about. Like the more I think on why we were put here on this earth, like how do you make the most out of your life? And I think that to truly be happy and satisfied and content, you don't need any specific subscriber number in my case, or any salary. Like, don't get me wrong, those help, right? They are, I would argue, necessary, but not sufficient. Because if you have money with no connections, what do you have? If you have connections with no money, you have more wealth than those with money and no connections. Your life is harder, but with that love, it's worth more than gold. And I think that's what I'm trying to pivot my life towards. And if I can do that with my 2 degrees, that's wonderful. And I feel like I have a much better chance at doing that than if I did something as broad as linguistics. This video got a lot deeper than I originally thought it would. Like, it started out as to why I didn't study linguistics, but I think it's really important just to remind people, like, through all the glamour you see on the internet, like all the cool clothes and all the subscribers and all the money and all the weight they can lift and all the languages they know or whatever. Like, it's important to take a step back and realize those are just things, and those are cool, but they shouldn't be what you chase. Like I'm not putting down if you choose to chase it. That's fine. You can choose to chase what you wish, but without that connection, without that family, without giving to others, what have you really done in this world? Isn't that what it's all about helping others? And I'm not saying like I'm a perfect individual who volunteers all the time, because it's something that I need to work on quite a bit. But I think the more I think about what really matters in this world, it's less about superficial things and more about helping people when they get down, and more about showing others that they are heard, or that they can learn anything in my case, or that other people are there for them. And this could be done in many, many different ways. But I think if you hit those underlying themes, like, I think that's what will satisfy you. I don't know. That's just something I've been thinking about recently, and that's kind of been my mindset these past 6 months, maybe. But I'm still learning. We're all still learning, which is important. I was talking with somebody who's very neurotic. Maybe she's very different, but it's, even if she is different, it's still important to talk with those people who have such different viewpoints, because you can learn anything from anyone. And you may not think that, but I think that's true. Whether it be what they're teaching you, or what you gain from interacting with them, or how they view the world, or even how you spent your time with them. There's always something to learn from other people. So just keep your mind open. That's it from me. Have a great day. Ciao.